She was dying of cancer from the inside out.
Mindy Nix's grandmother, Martha, battled cancer twice.
She suffered a very long and painful death.
In Martha's fight against bone cancer, she received more than 80 doses of chemotherapy.
The doctors wondered why she wasn't getting any better.
Not only did her condition deteriorate, she wasn't experiencing the normal impact of cancer treatment.
She did not lose her hair, and she noticed that she wasn't as nauseated, but we just thought it was the medical advances.
Unfortunately, federal investigators say what Martha experienced wasn't a scientific breakthrough. It was a pharmacist diluting life-saving cancer treatments for profit. His name was Robert Courtney.
Evil. An evil monster.
What do you think he should have been charged with?
He should have been charged with murder. I say that my grandma died because of Robert Courtney's heinous crime.
It's hard to put into words what Courtney did. Even federal investigators struggled with appropriate charges. Courtney was eventually convicted of tampering with consumer products, adulterating drugs, and mislabeling drugs. A plea deal sent him to prison for 30 years. 22 years later, he'll be walking out.
I believe he's a murderer.
Santana Cummings lost her mother.
I think that he is a psychopath.
Kat Duncan lost her father. Both daughters believe Courtney should face murder charges or at least remain in federal prison.
No rights, nothing. She's sit in the cell.
Many of these families recently connected with attorney Mike Ketchmark.
I'm calling upon the system to find a solution because he belongs in prison.
Here's the taxable treatment.
Ketchmark represented more than 200 families in civil cases. Some clients were too sick to make it to trial.
The damages against defendant Robert Courtney at $2 billion.
Georgia Hayes did, and she won a landmark victory.
Though we'll probably never see a dime from the verdict, I am ecstatic that justice has prevailed.
Georgia died from cancer 5 years after the trial. Her daughter recently wrote to KCTV5 and explains it this way. I remember believing that my mother had been murdered when she was still alive.
What did you think of Robert Courtney?
He was so evil and was such an evil person. He's a sociopath. He's a psychopath.
Ketchmark believes murder charges are appropriate.
Because I can't imagine any jury who looking at the situation like this who's going to have do anything other than realize what he did was he committed murder.
Courtney was convicted in federal court, but there's an entirely different legal system that could address this case. Missouri state courts, specifically Jackson County, where Courtney diluted medicines like chemotherapy. There's no statute of limitations on murder charges.
We would have loved to have charged him with murder and sent him away forever.
Retired FBI agent Melissa Osborne says federal investigators wanted to get Courtney away from patients and behind bars.
But we had to temper that with trying to get more information. We certainly didn't want him to go through a trial and walk out the door and keep his pharmacist license.
You heard Mr. Courtney say what he said. What went through your head?
Families were hoping for murder charges.
The guy's a heinous killer.
Old news footage shows families outraged at the federal courthouse.
And it's just unbelievable.
Which leads us to today. Courtney has been granted early release and home confinement.
There's some crimes that are so wrong and so heinous, whether they're violent or not, that a person should never get out, and this is one of them.
When families push for an explanation about Courtney's release, they've been told it's allowed under the First Step Act, ironically due to his good behavior. If you'd like to learn more about this case, head to our website. We have numerous reports and even a full documentary called Deluded. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.